Something we always forget about when we're playing role-playing games is we think about what they should be doing, but we don't think about what they are actually feeling. Welcome to No Fun Alloved's How to GM series, and today we're going to be talking about the five senses and how to incorporate them into your games. Now, we use some of these five senses regularly. You see this, you see that. Maybe you hear something, roll a perception check. But we forget about the other ones, and sometimes we don't truly elaborate on what we are actually feeling. So I wanted to go down the list here and just go over how to incorporate the five senses into any given scenario. First off being sight. Sight, like we just mentioned, is without a doubt the most common thing that we talk about in these role-playing games. As a game master, we are always saying, your character sees this, your character sees that. But depending on the game system that you're playing, maybe sight incorporates a bit differently. While of course we can sit there and see the whole map here, would your character be able to? If they're wearing a full plate helmet that restricts vision, what sense does it make that they can see directly behind them? If you and your adventuring party is going down into a deep dark cavern and the torch that someone is carrying only puts out light to 40 feet away, then is it just a flat blank wall of darkness at 40 feet away? Maybe every once in a while they see a flicker of something gleaming in the darkness. Maybe that character doesn't receive important information about what's going on behind them when they are looking dead ahead. Because as it seems to me, in most role-playing games, we just automatically assume every single character's head is on a perfect 360-degree swivel and they can see all around. I promise you that's not the case. If you're in combat, you're going to be looking dead ahead and maybe you tilt your head a little left and a little right, but that's pretty much it. And that is where the second sense is going to come into aid here with hearing. Of course, tied with sight, hearing is a very big deal. You hear that something's going on around the corner. You prop up your ear and you listen behind the door. But you see, the thing is there's a lot of things that would impact hearing. If you're in a cavernous cave, then you wouldn't be able to hear directly in front of you. If something emanated a lot of noise, it would be bouncing off the walls. Your perception of what is around you would be completely off. If you're using a system that has guns in it, then guns would be a huge deal. Of course, guns are loud, but you see, the thing is when gunfire starts popping off, you can't tell what direction it's coming from. All you hear is loud noises and potentially lots of yelling and screaming. Gunfire is not able to be picked up straight from the get-go. In order to assess what is going on here, you're going to have to be using your other senses. Hearing and sight are not catch-alls. They do not get everything. Sometimes the person is not going to be able to see everything. Sometimes they're not going to be able to hear everything. And that just makes sense. Going on to the third sense here, touch. Touch is a tremendous deal. More often than not, when we're playing a fantasy role-playing game, we normally don't think about what your character's wearing. But if they are an adventurer that's, doing rugged things, they're probably going to have some gloves and boots on. In which case their sense of touch would be obscured. But if the player expresses otherwise or you're running another game system, it would make sense that people would go ahead and touch things. It's dark all around you, you can't see anything, you prop up your ears, you don't hear anything. But what happens when you go ahead and touch the ground? You notice something. While of course you were walking through a rocky cave, now as soon as you touch the ground you feel it is cold and metallic to the touch. That infers what's going on in the world around you. As you are reaching down to go ahead and open up the door, right before your finger connects, you feel heat generating off of this handle. You didn't even need to touch it, but that sense of feel is a tremendous deal. If you see a lever that is parked directly straight up and it looks like it can go either left or right, then hopefully someone's going to ask, hey, does it feel like there's more resistance one way or another as they go ahead and try and feel it up? And of course, illusions are a big deal whether you're running fantasy or sci-fi. If you go out and touch something, does it feel like it actually is? Or is it something else? Or is it not even there at all? But sometimes you don't even need to get near it in order to sense what's going on. And that is where number 4, smell comes in. As you are marching further down in this cave, all of a sudden you get a foul whiff of sulfur in the air. And you realize that going any further could spell doom and disaster. Maybe it's not sulfur and maybe it's just a flat out gas, in which case if your players smell it, then they better not have a torch packing or else they might blow themselves up. As your players walk over the battlefield now strewn with the bodies of the dead, they will smell death, and death is not pleasant to smell. They'll smell gunpowder, they'll smell burnt bodies, they'll smell rotting corpses, and that will add to the sensation of the world around them. They're not just walking over stats on a page, they're walking over people, and they can go ahead and smell it, and hopefully that can bring the place to life, no pun intended. And maybe sometimes your players are a little bit curious and go ahead and try and see what that thing tastes like. So coming at number 5, at taste, your players can get a sense of what something truly is by going ahead and placing their tongue right on it. When that old lady that lives in a hut hands your players a pie, are they going to be tasting pork? Or do you think that they're going to be tasting something a little bit more strange? When that character gets dragged down into a bog and they are attacked constantly, of course at some point their mouth is going to be opening up from the pain, and then they're going to be tasting it, that foul stench of bog water in their mouth. When they get invited to the king's hall and are presented with a royal feast, do they only taste that succulent turkey? Or do they also taste that there is some hints of poison inside? Using all these 5 senses in conjunction is a really great way to get your players into the mindset of the characters that they are piloting. Use these 5 senses regularly. When they're moving through a dungeon, at some point they're going to be using all of these senses. Maybe not taste per se, but definitely all other 4s, without a shadow of a doubt. When your players are making their way through the cities, they're going to be getting all these 5 senses going in motion. Something I would suggest to you is, for every dungeon, maybe even a little area if you so choose, go ahead and write down the 5 senses and go ahead and write down one word or maybe a sentence using each of the 5 senses here to go ahead and be ready to give that to your players at any given time. Constantly your players are going to be asking what do they see and what do they hear, but go ahead and give them the other things as well. Tell them what they feel, tell them what they smell, and if something happens to go ahead and land in their mouth, go ahead and tell them what it tastes like. Using these 5 senses is going to bring your game to life, I promise you. So go ahead and tell me, do you regularly use the 5 senses, or do you not really think about it? It is something easily forgettable because you're trying to go ahead and weave a story, and you're trying to go ahead and come up with all these NPC voices and names and lines. Sometimes you forget about the fact that the characters that your players are piloting are human, or maybe humanoid. And they feel, they see things, they hear things, they touch, they smell, they taste, they do all these things. So go ahead and reiterate all those things to your players. Tell me if you're using these things or plan now on using these things because I want to hear it. I love using these and I think they certainly bring my games to life. That is going to do it for me on this video though. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my lovely patrons up here. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you so very much. That is going to do it for me though. I can't wait to see you all in the next How to GM series because there is a lot more to come.